Last week at the Charlotte Roval, the odds-on favorite Scott Ackrich royally flushed the field competition away by taking the checkered flag, while Thomas George gained 4 points on championship leader Brian Yazik to take away the title lead. Tonight we're in Vegas, where the bumps in turn 1 and 2 can turn your full house into a crashing down pile of mess. Can Scott go back-to-back here and sweep the slots, or will someone else hit the jackpot in the Galloping Horses 200 presented by Mane and Tail? Join us on the Virtual Group Network for this round of the PGRL's Premier Series. I'm Austin Melke, joined in the booth by J.R. Shepard and Kenny Kibbe, with our director Ryan Seneker in the production trailer. We've also got special guest Vincent Crow here as well. J.R., what can you tell us about Las Vegas Motor Speedway?
Well, Austin, Las Vegas Motor Speedway, it's a 1.5 mile D-shaped oval that has progressive banking that goes all the way up to 20 degrees at the top of the track. That progressive banking means that tonight these drivers will have options to move around the track, and it will help provide more side-by-side racing, hopefully. With that said, the car on the outside of a two-wide situation here is more than likely going to have an advantage. The middle to the higher side of the track provides a lot of momentum to help propel you down these straightaways and help you overtake your opponent. Another reason that the middle to the high line is probably going to be a little bit favored in a two-wide battle is because the bottom of turns 1 and 2 is extremely bumpy here. We all know how rigid the suspensions of these Gen 7 cars are. If you hit those bumps on low tire pressures or at the wrong angle, you can expect this car to get very loose. Best case, you chase it up the track and save it. Worst case, you take out yourself or several other drivers in a wreck here. And if a wreck happens in the corners, it's usually one of those situations that is very hard to avoid getting into yourself if you're behind it. The weather here tonight, guys, it's partly cloudy, about 80 degrees with a track surface temperature of around 98 degrees. This will make this place extremely slick and force the drivers to search around for grip the entire race. But fortunately for them, that progressive banking allows for that type of racing. Austin, this place is also known as the Diamond in the Desert. The only question tonight is which of these drivers is going to shine at the end here.
Thanks, JR. We're now going to bring in our Mayhan Speed Laboratories You Finish Last Pole Award winner. Tonight would be Rich Jetty, but Rich is feeling a little bit under the weather, so he has suggested that John Wilco take the interview for him. John, you got a copy?
I got a copy on you.
Perfect. Well, John, first question. After the race, I'm taking you down to the roulette tables. I'm going to hand you $20. You putting it on red or black?
Oh, we're definitely going black all the way.
I like to hear it. John, how does the car feel today?
Well, it's a little slow for me. I'm trying to lean on Rich, but like you said, he's under the weather, and it just seems very slow and just pushy, and I just can't get the handle on it.
For sure. Have you tried to go up the track or down the track? Where does the car feel the best for you at the moment?
I feel that the car runs the best where it's up closer to the wall, but the closer I get to the wall, it's easier for me to hit it.
For sure. Have you tried to negotiate the bumps at the bottom of turns 1 and 2? Are they as bad as they were in real life over the past weekend?
For me, they don't feel that way. The car seems to suck either way, but they're there, but I don't think they're going to be that big of a difference.
Perfect. John, best of luck in the race today. Thank you so much for taking the time to talk to us. It's always a joy and a pleasure.
Well, thank you guys for having me, and I want to wish Rich Jetty the speediest recovery. Hope he feels better soon.
We'd all like to wish Rich the exact same thing. Thank you, John. It's John Wilco. We'll send him back to his Discord chat there in the Back Row Motorsports with his buddy Rich Jetty. Hopefully Rich starts feeling a little bit better soon. Kenny, before the field comes to take the green flag and we go through the starting order, just go through quickly your main 3 points, and we'll touch on them later as the race goes on.
Yeah, so quickly tonight, it's a 134-lap race. 6 tire changes are available in the pits, 75% fuel limit, so about a 47-lap fuel run. 2 pit stops tonight. My keys for tonight are tire wear, big deal. The tires are going to wear over a second over a run, possibly up to 2 seconds. We'll have to see. So tire management's going to be key. Restarts, take advantage of your opponents. I feel like passing could be difficult unless we get some longer runs and you save your tires for the end. And also control over those bumps. The low line can be the fastest line, but you have to be able to control yourself, especially on the restarts when you don't have a whole lot of room. So it's going to be a challenge out there, and I feel like there's going to be some give and take early on.
Thanks, Kenny. We'll go through the entire starting field for you guys here. Of course, Rich Jetty starting on pole thanks to winning the Mahan Speed Laboratories You Finished Last Pole Award. Of course, the entire starting order for this race is based on the finishing order from last race. Of course, all the positions inverted with the exception of the past 2 previous champions, that being, if they show up tonight, Scott Eckridge and Jeff Ward. Looks like Scott's here. We'll get there in just a second. Rich Jetty lines up on pole with Jordan Harnish to his outside. Chance Manning's going to roll off in 3rd position, starting alongside Jonathan Cogswell. In 5th is Isaiah Dupre with Christopher DeWald in 6th. John Wilco is going to start in 7th, followed by Woody Mahan, who starts in 8th. Grego Berry rolls off in 9th with Michael Krobach, who rounds out the top 10. Cody Dempster starts in 11th, followed by Brian Yazik, who starts in 12th. Thomas George lines up in 13th, followed by Adam Jersky in 14th, and James Moore in 15th. Cy Ferris lines up in 16th, followed by Matthew Wheeler in 17th. Brady Cure lines up in 18th, followed by Jacob Ruff in 19th. Wally Wilson rounds out your top 20 starting positions, with Tim Weinkoff and Scott Eckridge rounding out your 22-car field tonight. JR, talking before the race, he said this car felt pretty tight with that kind of condition to start the run and also go into it as the rest of the race goes on. Do you expect these guys are going to run more towards the top of the track or at the bottom, right around the apron?
Yeah, Austin, I expect early these guys are going to be closer to the bottom, but like I said, in a 2-wide situation, the middle to the higher side of the track is definitely going to be better, and I expect these guys to continue to move up as the run goes on.
Thanks, JR. iRacing pace car brings the field through turns 3 and 4 for the final time before we get the green flag for tonight. Then he's going to give over command of the field to Rich Jetty. Rich is going to take the field down to the restart zone and put his foot on the loud pedal. Getting set here for the main and tail 200. Las Vegas Motor Speedway. Green flag flies in the air. Rich Jetty leads the field down into turns 1 and 2. He's getting swamped though on the high side by Jordan Harnish. Oh, Jordan went hard into the outside wall there.
Yeah, we definitely saw him blink out just a little bit there. I don't know if he's having some issues and just drove it up there. The car actually took off on him, but that's definitely going to damage that vehicle. He's going to be slower for the rest of the race if he continues.
Look at Grego Berry on the high side, turns 3 and 4. He's going to get a monster run down the front straightaway here if he can keep it underneath him. He does. We'll see what kind of run he gets, though. It should be pretty big. It was big, but not quite large enough to clear the 54 at Chance Manning as they go through into turns 1 and 2. Look at Cody Dempster, though. He's going to probably get a pretty big run here. He's got 2 cars ahead. That's going to be a pretty good draft. We'll see what he does with it.
Yeah, you could see on the outside there, Grego Berry, he was even with Chance Manning going into turn 1, but coming off of turn 2 and down the back straightaway, he was able to pull ahead. That's just the momentum that we're going to see here tonight by using that high side.
Grego Berry got a lot of momentum on the high side and just barely coming down in front of Chance Manning. Now he can finally set his sights on Rich Jetty just up the road by about a half a second. We'll see if he can get any closer, but right now Rich is doing a wonderful job out in front of the field here. They're almost 3 wide back further in the pack.
Yeah, definitely guys jostling around, trying to figure out where they want to run on this racetrack with the way this car is handling. And like we've talked about earlier, this handling, it's going to continue to change. They may be feeling a little bit tight getting into the corners now, but that is going to continue to get freer and freer as the race goes on.
Guys, Thomas George has already gone up a whopping 7 positions. Started in 13th, he's risen up to 6th spot. And how about Cy Ferries just behind him? He's rose 9 spots since the drop of the green flag.
Yeah, there's a lot of guys that are moving from the back to the front right now, and I think that's going to continue to change throughout the night. I think we're going to see a lot of comers and goers. I think some guys that you'll see up front early will start to fall back later into the run, assuming that we have a lone green flag run here.
Now, Vincent, as the tires start to warm up in these new next generation Cup cars, how far into a run before you finally understand how much grip you have in these cars in order to throw some of those riskier moves?
This car has so much mechanical grip. Really, what you end up finding out is how much did you abuse your tires before they were ready to go. Yeah, I think you really need to go about 2 or 3 laps before the car is really ready for you to push it. And you'll find out about 10 laps into a run whether you push it too hard during the what I call the go time. That's when you make the positions up. That's when you make up the spots. You know, you look at guys like Cody Dempster. He has not slowed down. He has not taken a back seat. He's looking to make positions, and it looks like he's going to move himself to P2.
Yeah, Cody Dempster continues to rise through the field here, just making a move to the inside of Grego Berry to put himself up into the second position. Meanwhile, Rich Jetty has gotten away to about a 1.8 second lead as you see Jonathan Cogswell trying to get down to the inside here under Chance Manning. That's Manning in the 54 up top, and Jonathan Cogswell in that nice looking Davey Allison throwback in the 28 car on the bottom. That good looking Havoline machine. Throwing back to the late 80s, early 90s.
Always awesome to see that car on track. He's been driving it all season, so yeah, definitely awesome to see. Always love the throwback schemes, but I did want to ask Vincent some questions here based on this Gen 7 car. You know, we've seen Rich Jetty pull out to a big lead. A lot of that may be because of the clean air. Vincent, how different do these cars handle when you're directly behind somebody, and how are you wanting to look on the racetrack to try to find some clean air for yourself?
Whenever you're following someone, the best course of action is to try to find the line that they're not in. There's so much manipulation aerodynamically that you can pull on someone. I'm watching the 54 car. He is, and I don't know if he's just not getting a feeling for the car yet, or if he's just, I think he's intentionally going slow. He's saving his tires. I think as this run goes on, you're going to find that 54 car is going to pass the 28 back. He's going to pass the 97 back, because he's going to let his car have the best mechanical grip later, and having mechanical grip or having better tires than others is how you overcome that aero deficiency. When you have the lead, though, you just got to go for it, which is what Rich Jetty's doing. Ooh, big car in the wall.
Yeah, car hard in the outside wall off of turn 2, trying to see what car that was. Looks like it's James Moore. It's really hard to see from this angle. I believe it is a 21 car, James Moore. He's going to bring that car to a complete halt on the apron of the backstretch. And he gets it going again. That was pretty weird how he stopped. It was almost like he knocked the car out of gear once he got into the outside wall and brought it back down onto the apron. This is Chance Manning. Looks like he's trying to get passed by Wally Wilson here on the outside. Wally's one driver we haven't seen in a while. Driver for Patriot Media and Marketing.
Yeah, definitely. He came from 20th starting position there, Austin, all the way up into 6th place, trying to pass for a top 5 position here on Chance Manning. He's getting that outside rolling at the minute. I expect him to be able to pass him completely going into turn 1 here.
Boy, he just barely cleared him. That was extremely close between those two cars. Back further in the field, this is for the 10th position. You've got Michael Krobach battling to the inside of the 84 car of Woody Mahan. Just behind him is one of our championship hopeful contenders, Brian Yazik. Up until last week, Brian Yazik had pretty much had the points lead all season. Until last week at the Charlotte Roval, he dropped 4 points to Thomas George, his championship rival, and now George has a championship lead by 2 points. So there's still a lot to play for as we go into the last couple races here for the season and the year here in the PGRL competition.
Yeah, Austin, I do want to mention, so last race winner, the last time we were here at Las Vegas, Scott Eckridge, he started 22nd. He's only up to 17th. Brian Yazik, like we were talking about, he started 12th and he's still running there. These guys both had top 5s here the last time we were here. They know how to get around this track. I'm thinking right now they're in no hurry. They're taking care of their tires. They expect to have a good long green flag run here, and they're going to have tires at the end of it to make up some ground.
See Thomas George trying to see what he can do down to the inside of Saif Ferris. Saif has been one of the newcomers in the PGRL series, really getting faster and faster as the year goes on. It's always great to see the new people come into the series and really challenge the fast people, but more importantly, do it in a respectful way where you're not just going in there and, you know, door banging other drivers, especially coming off the corner, right hooking them. Whoa, Grego Berry super loses to come down the track. Wally Wilson tried to take evasive action. Both those drivers did a phenomenal job of holding on to their race cars, and boy, Grego Berry is going to pay for it. He lost at least 10 spots down the front stretch, JR.
Yeah, absolutely. He did a great job saving the car, but because of how he had to save the car, he lost all of his momentum, and odds are it's going to take him a couple laps to get those tires into a comfortable spot to where he can get back after it.
Up front battle for the lead, you see Cody Dempster down to the inside of Rich Jetty. He ran Rich down by about the tune of 2 seconds, and now he's trying to make a pass for the lead here on the inside. He's going to lead this lap. He's going to clear Rich Jetty going down the grass.
Yeah, Ferries just went through the grass in the tri-oval, able to keep it going though, and we will stay green. Good save from the 44.
Thanks, guys. Very hard to control these cars once they get sideways, JR.
Yeah, absolutely. As we're watching the replay here, he just got, it looked like he probably had a little bit of a push-loose condition. Car pushing up off of turn 4. You want to keep it out of that outside wall right as you get to the exit. As he turned it down, the thing just came around on him, and then once it comes around, it's extremely hard to not overcorrect with his racket and pinion steering. So he did a great job to not overcorrect, just drove through the grass, kept everything under control.
Battle back further here in the pack. This is for 6th, 7th, and 8th position between Wilson, Weinkauf, Yazik, and Mahan. Up at the front, Cody Dempster continues to pull away from Rich Chetty. Rich is doing a pretty decent job of sticking with him. And while those two are fighting side by side, it allowed Jonathan Cogswell to catch up to both of them. Now only 0.6 of a second separate the top 3 drivers, this time by the stripe. Oh, look out. That was Weinkauf on the bottom, getting pretty loose.
The handling in these cars, it's at the point where it's starting to change. We're around lap 15, lap 17 right now. That's where they're going to start to see a transition. We're going to start to see some guys come and go.
Oh,
like
Weinkauf's in the wall hard. A big wreck off.
Oh, big spin down the backstretch.
Weinkauf got it. He speared into the wall, and Mahan and Wilson had nowhere to go, and they plowed into him. That was a violent accident.
Oh boy, shades of Jeff Gordon in 2008, that old green Nicorette car. I feel like Weinkauf's going to be done for the day. Such a shame for Timmy. He's been really fast every single time he shows up to the racetrack. We're going to get a replay here. Vincent, walk me through this one. This is on the front stretch. He slides here and saves it. But as we go through turns 1 and 2, I'm kind of curious what you think happened here. What's your take on this?
Well, my take is these two guys were up almost into the top 5 or in the top 5, and they overdrove their tires. This is about when the tires start to fall off. He started to see it, and he just got loose. He tries not to overcorrect it, but there's just nothing you can do, and that car snaps and it overloads in one direction or the other. It looks like he started getting loose. He probably steered it back to the right a little bit, and it just overloaded all of the force of the rear end to that left rear, and that just aims you head on into the wall. We've seen it with Ross Chastain at Fontana, I think it was. We saw it with the 16 and Noah Gragson at Atlanta. It's so easy to do in these cars as soon as you start getting off the hill. Luckily, it's virtual, so I'm sure he's fine, but a little bit of a hurt pride, I think.
Thanks, Vincent. Kenny, you see the rest of the field now going down pit road. What you thinking here? 4 tires for all these guys?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, this is not a full fuel run by any means. Pretty much a little bit less than half of a run, but plenty of tires left in the pits. Tire sets are not an issue yet, anyway. And these drivers have fallen off a decent bit in their lap times. So Cody Dempster, for example, he ran his fastest lap was a 30.902, and he was running laps pretty much in 32 seconds or so. So definitely worth getting tires at this juncture.
As we now have a break in the action, Ryan, let's see if we can't take a look at those championship points. Things continue to get hotter and hotter at the front of the field. We've got a couple different drivers now battling for the overall championship title. You got Thomas George 2 points ahead of Brian Yazik. Pretty good gap from those two back to Michael Krobach. Krobach was still really in the hunt until he went to Talladega. In the last 2 weeks, he's continued to fall off the back of the 2 championship competitors ahead of him. But there's still a lot to play for, and anything can happen here in the next 3 races left to go this season. You've got Cody Dempster and Woody Mayhem rounding out the top 5, JR.
Yeah, absolutely. Cody leading this race at the moment. Woody Mahan, he's now out. Unfortunate, getting caught up in another accident, just having terrible luck once again. So he's going to fall a little bit. Chance Manning, he's still up there in the top 5. He's 6th place in points. Scott Eckridge, he's coming from the back, so he's looking to make up some points tonight. Also have Isaiah Dupre in 8th, Mike Rasmussen 9th, and Adam Jersky still in the top 10 in points, with Rich Jetty's only 1 point behind him there in 11th.
Thanks, JR. You can see the rest of the championship points and positions as the race goes on further down behind up to 18th position. We've got a couple more seconds here, so we can we'd like to take a minute to thank our sponsors for this race. Vincent, I think you know a little bit about our sponsor tonight, Mane and Tail.
Yeah, Mane and Tail is a family-owned company, fantastic brand, American-made, American manufactured, and shipped out of their headquarters in Bethlehem, Pennsylvania. Mane and Tail is great for horses, people, and fantastic for and with all with all the fantastic products they have, there's something for you, there's something for your dog, there's something for your horse. Go to maneandtailstore.com, get yourself a get yourself a holiday gift package set for yourself. Get yourself a plush horse and use code S320 for a discount on your purchase. That should be active now. S310 to get 10% off your purchase.
Thanks, Vincent. Main and Tail, we'd like to thank them for coverage tonight. Pretty tight times for you with them, Vincent. So nice to see them supporting the pretty good racing league here. Lights should be out atop the iRacing pace car this time by, so the field should be doubling up. Yep, you see the wave arounds now going around the outside of that iRacing pace car. So we're going to be going green this next time by. If you find yourself bored without much to do on a Friday night, maybe all your friends who went out partying last Friday, unluckily for them, got COVID, you find yourself sitting inside on YouTube with not much else to do, why don't you tune yourself into the Virtual Grip Network? You can watch the Bootleg Racing League's Dirt Street Stock Series. That goes live at about 7 o'clock p.m. Eastern Time. And then if you go through later in the night, let's say you're staying up a bit late, maybe you had some pops watching the Dirt Street Stock broadcast, you can watch the National Sprint Car Trail, also on the Virtual Grip Network by the Bootleg Racing League. That one goes live a little bit later, about 10:30 p.m. Eastern Time. So if you got nothing to do on a Friday night, I cannot recommend anything else more than to come sit down with DJ Clark, John Hine, myself, Chris Davis, sometimes Kenny Kibbe also hops in the spotlight there. iRacing pace car is going to make the hard left turn down pit road, give command of the field over to Cody Dempster. So we go back green in the Galloping Horses 200 presented by Mane and Tail. Oh man, Cody Dempster got a huge jump on the rest of the field. Cody Dempster, Jonathan Cogswell pretty much caught sleeping, standing up like a couple of horses themselves. Boy, look at Brian Yazik and Thomas George. Those two championship competitors have certainly found themselves at the front of the field. And don't discount Michael Krobach. He's still very hungry for another win.
Yeah, absolutely. He's going to try to get a win for sure, looking to do that. He's had some fantastic runs, and he's one of the best guys that we've seen, not just in this league, but in other races, where he's very good at saving the tires and being there toward the end of a run. So if he's already got track position, he is going to be dangerous if we get a long run here.
JR, before we got in the race, Scott Eckridge sent us a message about if you go up front early, you're going to find yourself in the back of the pack during a long run, talking about tire conservation. What are some of the things you can do in, racing at a large oval like this to kind of conserve your tires to make sure you still got some left for the field at the end?
A lot of things. One of the easiest things to do is just not turn that steering wheel as much into the corners. Another thing is to usually run the bottom of the track, because that forces you to be easier through the corner, easier with your brakes, easier with your throttle. So all of your inputs just need to be lightly applied compared to what you would normally do. And that's what these guys are going to have to do. It's not easy, because we talked about it earlier. Turns 1 and 2 is extremely bumpy, so running the bottom is maybe not the best place to be, especially on lower air pressures. The car is going to bottom out. It's going to move around, potentially could bottom out to the point that the car jumps sideways, and there's nothing you can do to save it. So these guys are having to be very careful with it, but ultimately you got to make all slower than what you normally do. Less steering, less throttle, all of that will help you have a better car at the end of the run.
Boy, Rich Jetty gets a huge run to the outside of Cody Dempster as they go down the back straightaway. Rich Jetty to the high side, all high, wide, and handsome. Look out, though, Michael Krobach just behind him. Unlike this time, Rich Jetty didn't start the race or didn't start the green flag run here, so he hasn't gotten himself out to a large run away from the rest of the field. Cody Dempster didn't need to chase him down. He was the leader when we went back to green flag racing. And guys, I'm almost curious if Cody Dempster didn't want to try to save his tires at the beginning of this run. He just wanted to kind of run his own pace, knowing that at some point he'd be the fastest guy out there on the track. After all, he did run Rich Jetty down in about 2 seconds to take the lead by a half a second. And as soon as he passed Rich Jetty, he certainly didn't get a whole lot further than that. And Kenny, I'm kind of curious, is that Cody just kind of managing his tires?
I feel like it is a little bit. I feel like Cody, once he got to the lead, was kind of just running the pace he needed to. But we have seen in the past where it's hard for drivers to really get away from the pack. A lot of on throttle time here, so there is kind of a draft effect going on here, almost like you see with the trucks at Las Vegas. So it is difficult for the leader to get away. But you see Jetty getting away a little bit at the moment. But yeah, I think I think he's running his tires a little bit too hard and then just got kind of eaten up by Dempster last run, and I think Dempster's kind of planning on the same strategy here.
Looking at Wally Wilson trying to cut to the inside here of Michael Krobach. This is a battle for 4th position. Just up the field a little bit, Ryan. Currently on your screen is the driver at 11th place, Greg O'Berry. Just ahead there, you can see the 26 car, Brady Keir. Nice to see Brady out on the racetrack once again. And Jacob Bruff, I feel like it's been a while since we've talked about him, guys.
Yeah, absolutely. Got a couple of guys that either have only been back for a few races or making their return tonight. So it's good to see these guys back. They're drivers that were obviously had speed previously when they were here, and they're going to add to the competition level that was already here. It was already pretty high competition to begin with, but when you continue to have guys that are fast come in, it just takes it to another level.
Good eye there, Ryan. I was just about to point out this battle between the 44 of Cy Ferries and the 7th place car, the 54 of Chance Manning. Chance is looking to get down to the inside here, just up ahead of that battle, of course. You got Wally Wilson trying to cut to the inside of Jonathan Cogswell. Last time by, he was just to the inside of Michael Krobach, so while he continues to make his way up further through the field, trying to see if he can't get up to his Patriot Media and Marketing teammate of Cody Dempster in the 24. He's got about a half a second left to get up to him, and boy, he seems to be pretty tight getting off the corner, JR.
Yeah, definitely. That's one of the frustrations here at Las Vegas as we get, 10, 15 laps on your tires, is you can get to the inside of somebody, you can get that run on them, get to the inside, but once you're side by side, it is so hard to complete that pass. So one of the things drivers do is drive into the corner harder and try to clear themselves by the center. Some of that is what we just saw with Wally Wilson there, and he was able to do that on Jonathan Cogswell.
Wasn't Wally Wilson just broken?
Well, I know he did have some damage from earlier, so he could be.
Kenny, these last couple laps, we've seen Chance Manning all over the rear end of Cy Ferries. Is that he doesn't really appreciate how he was just being raced, or is that him just kind of looking for a draft, trying to make a move at the last second?
I mean, it could be a little bit of both here, and one thing you can do is you can kind of put a driver at a disadvantage by really swiping your car across another with a wake of air. It will affect somebody in the corner especially, but yeah, a lot of kind of gamesmanship being played here. Some drivers kind of picking and choosing their battles, others kind of going hard right from the get-go here, and I think what Vincent was saying was that Wally Wilson, he was in that wreck earlier, and now he's actually back up into 3rd place, and Vincent, that kind of just shows the resiliency of these race cars.
Yeah, it does. I just thought for sure with some of the angle of the hits he took, I couldn't believe he was on the lead lap, and I'm looking up at the scoring, and sure enough, he's fighting for 3rd right now. I think he used those tires up, or maybe that damage is starting to hamper him because he is about to be on the outside of 3 wide.
And you see Chance Manning get to his inside. Brian Yazik going to do the exact same thing. Whoa, almost contact there. Boy, off of turn 4 that last lap, JR. Jonathan Cogswell had a handful of opposite lock, but Brian going into turns 1 and 2, almost looking like a battle for the lead is shaping up between Rich Jetty and Cody Dempster. These last couple laps, Cody has been running down Rich Jetty like nobody's business. He gets a huge run here off of turn 2, as looked like Rich Jetty either got really sideways coming off the corner or super tight and had to back out of the throttle, move Cody Dempster in the 24 car back to the lead.
Cody's doing a great job of understanding what the car has. We've had one round of cycles on these tires, so everybody understands kind of where the handling went from the beginning to the end. Cody was aware of that. He did a great job in the first stint. Now he's doing the exact same thing through the second one. And like we said, he seems to be the best one at it so far, but look in 3rd place, guys. Michael Krobach, who is known for doing this, is starting to chase these guys now.
Yeah, sort of, JR, you coined it the best. I think Jeff Ward would do this most often. And for right now, it looks like Michael Krobach is kind of Jeff Warding this. Whoa, look out, Rich Jetty, super sideways, goes down to the apron to save it.
Yeah, we're just at that point, guys, where the tires are starting to go away. The guys that have pushed hard at the beginning are starting to pay for it. And you can see these guys that have been back here taking care of their stuff. Brian Yazik, another one. Krobach, 2nd. Yazik in 3rd. Chance Manning's doing a good job moving into 4th, and Jetty's going to continue to move backwards because he has made those tires angry, it looks like.
Yeah, it's going to take him at least a couple laps to get those tires back under control. Vincent, whoa, looked like Wally Wilson went for a pretty large spin there down the front stretch. he saved it before too long. But Vincent, you know, in your experience with these cars, once you get them sideways, it really upset the tires like that. How many corners do you have to kind of go through? You know, half throttle, you know, kind of cracking it just a little bit to kind of, you know, bring the tire temperature down so they finally start to handle the way you want.
First thing you got to do is you got to calm yourself down. Not only are your tires heated, you're probably heated, and I think we just saw that with the 36 and the 24. Both those guys were pushing pretty hard these last few laps, and both of them got their tires angry. The big thing the 36 and the 24, who both ran hard, need to do is they need to cool themselves off and just try to be as smooth as possible. Let the tires start to even out to your competition. You're starting to see the 6, the 72, the 54, who are all kind of pacing themselves, really starting to push it now to get to this lead. They want to be the first car out there because the fresh air really will make more of a difference as this run goes on.
Side-by-side battle on your screen right now. This is for 7th place in the field. Greg O'Berry in the 97 to the inside of the 44 car. Cy Ferris as the 2 cars head down into turns 1 and 2. They've been locked in this side-by-side battle for at least the last couple of corners, if not more than that. You can see Scott Eckridge in that 70 car finally making his way further through the field. He's been taking his sweet time getting up there. See Thomas George forcing the car 3 wide on the bottom. He's going to have to be careful he doesn't Kyle Larson into Bubba Wallace and get turned by Chance Manning off of turn 4. Oh, they get loose. Look out, Chance Manning.
He's going to go for a spin. Can everyone miss him? Look out. Oh my God. Christopher DeWald barely slides through. What a great job by everyone to miss him. Chance just tried to move up the track as far as he could go without creating contact. That's everyone pushing. Like I said, the 54, the 6, these guys had kind of paced themselves, and the 24 was just trying to hang on for dear life. And about the same part of the run as last time, as these tires start to fall off, it happens very quick, like a light switch, hard to control.
Guys, I wouldn't mind actually going back to really the beginning of turn 3 there as we take a look at the replay. Thomas George makes it 3 wide, and he actually clips the apron just a little bit, and it moves his car up the track just a hair, which either spooked the 24 or packed some air on his left front. And what that ends up doing is kind of moving the 24 up near the 54, which kind of either spooked the 54 or packed some air onto his car as well, and kind of led to that chain reaction. It was kind of a wild deal there. Here we go, down into turn 3. You see Thomas George here making the move. You see he'll clip the apron right there, moves up. The 24 spooks, moves up, and that spooks the 54. It's just an odd situation.
I'm almost curious if maybe the 54 car, Kenny, isn't spooked. He might have just gotten a little bit loose there coming off the corner. It's hard to tell if he would have seen that out the side of his car. And I only say that because if he's using a single monitor, sometimes your peripheral vision really isn't all there. Of course, it might be in a VR2 or have a ultra wide, maybe a triple screen monitor situation.
Been in that situation, and you don't even have to see the car. You can actually hear the guy on your inside. If he thinks he's the outside of 3 wide, he hears that 24 moving up. He's probably thinking create as much space as possible to avoid the contact. And I think he got so far up there, he was probably just in the loose stuff, and there's no way you're going to keep grip on that.
We're going to take a quick break here for the Galloping Horses 200 presented by Mane and Tail from Las Vegas Motor Speedway. We'll be right back. Don't go anywhere.
Your horse, your friend, your companion. It's about trust and a bond built with care and hard work.
Georgina Bloomberg with
Competition brings out the best in both of us. Confidence, determination, and the sheer will to win. This is where we shine.
8 times it is for Georgina Bloomberg. She is through.
Mane and Tail have been my go-to products for as long as I can remember. Make them part of yours.
This is the world's premier online racing simulation. iRacing puts you in the driver's seat from your home computer with the most realistic online motorsports experience you'll find anywhere. Race virtually in the world's biggest events with officially licensed series, cars, and tracks. From the high banks of Daytona to the blistering speeds of Indianapolis. the dirt of Eldora to the world's most legendary road courses. It's all here, and with more than 180,000 people just like you already driving, you'll always have someone to race. Ready to get behind the wheel? Sign up at iRacing.com to get started. Welcome back to the Galloping Horses 200 presented by Main in Town. We're here at Las Vegas Motor Speedway. iRacing pace car should be getting ready to turn down off the track. No, the lights are still on, so it looks like we still have just a little bit of time here. And one more lap to the caution length. Such. The race off pit road saw a huge shuffle in the leadership. Saw a couple guys, Kenny, taking 2 tires compared to the rest of the field. That, of course, moves our 3 championship fighters up to the front. Then you've got the always, we're going to call them a perennial favorite pretty much everywhere we go. Won last week's race at the Roval by a ton. Won last time we were here earlier in the spring. You got Scott Eckrich. And then, of course, the driver that was in the lead as the caution last flew, Cody Dempster.
JR, one thing I've noticed is that, these drivers like Scott Eckrich that have to start in the back every week, they've had some smaller fields at some of the last few events. That must make it a little bit easier coming into these races.
Yeah, I absolutely agree with that. I think when you know that you have the speed and the pace to get up here and win these races, if you're starting in the back, you have no reason to go charging hard at the beginning when it's a smaller field like this. So Scott's doing a nice job. Unfortunately for the rest of the field, it's lap 44 and he's already in the top 5. So it's probably going to become a rough night for some of these guys pretty soon.
Now the iRacing pace car pulls the hard left down pit road. Michael Krobach now in command of the field. He waits to put his foot on the loud pedal, finally tries to scoot away from the field. Does a very good job of getting away from everyone equally. Everyone else does a pretty good job of getting onto the loud pedal in rapid succession compared to everyone else. Look out for Brian Yazik, though. He got a huge run going down into turns 1 and 2. Looking to make it 3 wide with Cody Dempster on the high side. Almost 4 wide now as they head into turns 1 and 2. Brian Yazik goes to the front. Look at Saif Fares there. He's looking to make it 3 wide in the center of the corner.
Yeah, near contact by a lot of these guys right now. Everybody knows this is the time to try to get what they can because that clean air is so important in helping you save the tires early. Brian Yazik was able to capture that. Krobach's able to stay in second.
Boy, you've got to be feeling for Thomas George. He started this run in the 3rd position. Now he's fallen all the way back. He's doubled that amount to the 6th spot. All the cars now flocking off of turn 2 as they head down the back straightaway. You see Wally Wilson trying to duck down to the inside of his Patriot Media teammate Cody Dempster. Looked like Cody lifted just a little bit there to help his teammate out. Move Wally Wilson up in the 4th position.
Yeah, after that incident, Wally has had a ton of speed and he has done everything he can to get to the front fast, and he's continuing to run that high line like he has for much of the night. See Saif trying to take the 2nd place here away from Michael Krobach coming off turn 2.
He's going to get a huge run off for turn 2 with the momentum on the high side. Now he's trying to look to see what he should do with Brian Yazik. Wisely, he lifts just a little bit to back out of the throttle, but boy, Wally Wilson didn't lift a bit as they go into turns 3 and 4. Coming out now, it should be a pretty decent battle. Going to be a drag race to the stripe to see who leads it. This time by, looked like it was Brian Yazik by about a millisecond over Saif Fares. Saif, though, he's going to take the lead. Look at Wally Wilson trying to make it 3 wide on the bottom. Now just 2 and 2.
Yeah, Saif drove it off in there to get that lead. Unfortunately, it allowed Wally to get up and underneath him coming off of 2, so they're going to drag race down the back.
Wasn't sure if Wally was going to just crack the throttle a little bit, try give him the old over-under. Wally Wilson's going to come across the stripe this time by to lead lap 49. Just about a third of the way through this race, Cy Ferris now looks down to the inside. It looks like Wally Wilson's going to be able to cover it quite nicely with the momentum on the high side.
And I feel like some of the drivers like Yazik and Krobach are kind of just settling in here, let those other two kind of go at it amongst themselves. And I feel like they're just kind of settling, racing the racetrack. And, you know, waning in behind there is Thomas George, who I think he just wants to keep Brian Yazik kind of in his sights. So we know they are the two championship hopefuls right now.
Yeah, JR, how do you race like that on the track, knowing that you're kind of locked into a championship battle with someone else? Does it change how you approach the race and try to do it based on them?
You know, it can, especially as you get later into the season. But the biggest thing is that you don't want to be looking at where your competitor is and forcing you to drive differently because of that. You've got to stay on the car and do what you can do with it. If you're not good enough to keep up with him, you cannot overdrive your car and put yourself in a bad situation and potentially cause yourself a DNF. You do not want to get yourself out of the race or out of the championship altogether. Get everything you can get each and every race. If it's less than your competitor, it's less. You got to go to the next weekend and try to capitalize on them.
Boy, guys, Wally Wilson continues to pull away from this field. Now he's out there by about a second and a half over second place Saif Fares. Saif's kind of the cork in this bottle right now between second and about sixth place. And then you're looking at here, this is a battle in the second pack. This is after Scott Eckridge in the first one. Later, this one is Greg O'Berry. Scott Eckridge leading this one. He's got Greg O'Berry just behind him. You can see this large gaggle of cars right now.
Interesting to see this pack here with Eckridge leading the train. We know he's got the pace to probably run away from most of these drivers, but he's choosing to just kind of sit here and kind of cork up this pack here. But you know, obviously, I think he's one of those drivers that I think is aiming at trying to get a long green flag run and really capitalizing on that.
Scott Eckridge here continues to lead the second pack, being the cork in the bottle for all these guys just behind him. We're almost three wide here up in the first pack. This is looking to be the first driver to try and go see what they can do to Wally Wilson. Wally's now out right now to a 2-second gap back to the rest of the field. Saif Fares being the first among them. Brian Yazik is third. Cody Dempster fourth. Michael Krobach rounds out the top five. You see Brian Yazik trying to look down to the inside to see Fares as they come off at turn two. Nothing doing there for right now. He's going to get close, but no cigar.
Yeah, not able to make that pass yet. But like you said, Wally Wilson's out to a 2-second lead. This is the first time we've seen him in clean air. Hopefully we get a good green flag run here so we can see what the tire wear does for him. Is he going to be able to hang on to that kind of lead, or is he eventually going to back up to these guys? Because this pack that we are watching on the screen, the five guys, they're all running together here, so they appear to be doing about the same strategy on taking care of their equipment.
Vincent, as we talk about taking care of equipment, you'll see Cody Dempster now shoot down to the inside of Brian Yazik. Taking care of your equipment, you mentioned that talk about mechanical grip as the run goes on. How do you manage that in terms of overall speed to make sure you've still got speed over the long run?
It's such a difficult process. I think the most interesting driver of this race has been Chance Manning, because I think he's tried pushing at the beginning of the run. I think he's tried backing it out at the beginning of the run, and now he's just stuck in a lot of traffic. You know, some people's strategy is very clear and evident. Wally's has been push, and waiting to see what happens. Scott's been hanging back the whole time. I think it's incredibly difficult. The winner of this race is going to be the one who does it perfectly, that Goldilocks, where you don't back out too much or you lose a lot of track position, but you back out enough that you have what it takes to hold the lead at the end of a run.
Looking at John Wilco here. John has done a fantastic job to get himself back on the lead lap. Usually John likes to take that slow start approach. He'll start on the pit lane just to make sure he isn't involved in anything early on. Trying to play the long game. He, more often than not, comes onto the race very strong at the end, comes home with a top 15 finish. And for John, that's all he wants. He's one of those drivers that'll just take what the car can give him. Kenny, though, for right now, Wally Wilson continues to fall back. That 2-second gap we just talked about, it's been halved as he's been getting pretty tight coming off the corners. We're three wide though for second place. Look at that Yazik in the middle, Yazik on the bottom, Dempster in the middle, Saif Fares up top.
Well, guys, we had two drivers that went in the grass down the front stretch, DeWald and Cure. We can keep the camera here on this battle for the moment. It was Cure and DeWald. They kept it going and saved it here. But yeah, it's really packing up here. Battle for top 5 spots as Wilson's lead now down under 1 second. And that just goes to show how accelerated the tire wear can be, whether you have clean air or not. If you don't take care of those tires, you'll get eaten up, and this pack is going to catch.
Well, look at Brian Yazik eat a big twitch off the corner. Sorry, Kenny.
Yeah, he really did, and it's been interesting to see Yazik because he's kind of been a mixture of both strategies. He's been relatively aggressive trying to keep track position, but also been trying to save his tires. Oh, you see Thomas George push up into a car on his outside there. These drivers seem to be pushing it a little bit harder now.
I'm curious what's going to happen here to Brian Yazik in the 55 car and Cody Dempster in the 24 as they start to approach Cody's teammate. Look at Yazik. He's going to make it 3 wide and poor Wally Wilson. He's got clowns to the left and jokers to the right. Here he is, stuck in the middle.
Yeah, exactly right, Austin.
Around the outside. Sorry, JR.
No, exactly right. He's falling back. We speculate he is loose through turns 3 and 4. He is dirt tracking it to the center of the corner right now, almost getting in a bad 3-wide situation with Saif trying to get to his inside. But definitely abused the tires at the beginning of that run. These guys chased him down while they were racing each other side by side, so he's lost a lot of time.
I think
these Brian Yazik now trying to get down to the inside of Cody Dempster. He's going to make it too wide, and don't look out now, but Thomas George is just behind championship fighter Brian Yazik. These two guys, as soon as you see Brian Yazik, you know you're going to see Thomas George, and other than that, vice versa. As soon as you see the 6 car, you know the 55 is not far behind.
You're really seeing, it seems like Thomas is just kind of, whether it's intentional or not, he seems to be making all the same moves that Yazik is, as he just barely clears in front of Dempster there. So now these two championship hopefuls are now 1 and 2, but Dempster's not giving up that 2nd spot easily.
And Michael Krobach, he's doing a pretty good job to go ahead and wiggle that thing around wherever it needs to go. He was saving his tires probably the best as they start this run. Boy, JR, he got really tight off at turn 4. Now it looks like Saif Ferris is going to come swallow him up.
Yeah, absolutely. If that happens, if you have to lift for any reason, getting tight or getting loose, if a guy is close to you, he is going to chase you down that straightaway and more than likely be able to get to your inside or outside. So that's one of the frustrating things. As the tires age, you're going to have to continue to stay on top of what the car is doing handling-wise and try to control it. It's going to be difficult, but you've got to keep that car underneath you for the most part. We see Saif get really loose coming off of turn 4.
Yeah, big wiggle. Nice save for Saif. And don't look now, Scott Eckridge swallows up Saif on the outside. One car spinning in the infield. That's Wally Wilson in the 69 car. That was a nice save for him in the grass. Look at Christopher DeWald. Looks like he got a little bit loose there too. Scott Eckridge now goes to the inside of Cody Dempster as they head down the back straightaway to turns 3 and 4. Brian Yazik now the 6/10 of a second lead over Thomas George.
Yeah, Wally Wilson got really loose and got up into Greg O'Berry. Greg O'Berry did a fantastic job keeping his car straight through the grass, but his Wally's tires have just been shot these last few laps. He's been sliding all over the place. See the replay here. Just goes for a spin through the grass, no caution. Most of these
Greg O'Berry was lucky Wally was there. It would have been a lot worse of a slide for Greg.
Yeah, but granted, he was kind of minding his own business until Wally slid up in front of him in the first place.
That's fair. Yeah, that's fair. A little bit of a how do you like that move now? Scott Eckridge now has risen his way up to 4th. He started all the way back in 22nd. Brian Yazik is just loving this. If these two guys here in 2nd place continue to battle, that being Thomas George and Michael Krobach, his lead has been about the same for the last couple laps. It's pretty much steady around 6/10 of a second. You see the rest of the field now going through turn 2 and onto the back straightaway. Saif Ferris started out this run really strong. He's falling back a couple spots, but guys, I feel like Saif's just kind of saving his tires, trying to take care of his stuff for the moment.
I think he got him a little bit angry, realized that maybe he was pushing in the wrong areas of the racetrack. You don't necessarily have to overdrive the entire track, but I think he realized where he was overdriving it, has kind of backed it up to kind of save his tires for a little bit later in the run. But yeah, right now, Michael Krobach, we talked about how good he saves his tires. He's continuing to run in 3rd and is catching Thomas George. Scott Eckridge has been just riding around this whole time. I think he fell back to 7th place at once. He's now back up in 4th.
Look at this run on a Jordan Harnish here tonight. He started on the outside pole. He's doing a pretty good job to keep on to this thing right now on the back of Adam Jersky. Adam is up a whopping 6 positions since the start of this race. He continues to race well at all the tracks he shows up to. Adam's kind of an on-again, off-again driver in terms of weeks he shows up. But boy, if he shows up, he is on it the entire night. More often than not, he's running inside the top 10, Kenny.
Well, remember, Harnish was the driver that got up into the outside fence right at the beginning of the race, dropped all the way to the rear of the field, and is kind of recovered nicely. I wanted to ask a question to Vincent here. Vincent, we've started to see all the strategies as far as who's pushing and when through these runs, and you've raced against all these drivers multiple times. Do you kind of take that into effect when you kind of come up with your own strategy? If you find yourself flying by a driver like Michael Krolbach or something early on in the run, you kind of think twice and think, yeah, maybe I should kind of tone it down a bit?
High confidence in my handling of the car and my high confidence in my ability to run. I will match what Scott Eckridge is doing because he will take me to the promised land. Him, Brian Yazik, Thomas George, Krobach, those are the guys I think of when I think, okay, how am I supposed to run this car? But when it comes to if I have very low confidence or if I don't really feel like I have the car underneath of me, I won't play games. I will push and push and push because having the positions is, for at least for a moment, is better than not having them at all.
See Scott Eckridge in the 70 car trying to make his way up to the 6 car of Thomas George. Scott Eckridge, again, one of our last 2 seasons champions. The 70 car, so he started at the tail end of this field. The only car that should ever start behind Scott for the moment is Jeff Ward, him being last season's champion, and of course the entire grid for each race set by an inversion of the finishing positions from last race. Then the chartered and unchartered drivers that didn't make the race, and then the 2 defending series champions. You see Saif Fares, his tires continue to fall off for him. He's right now being swamped by Adam Jersky and Rich Jetty.
Rich Jetty being one of the guys at the beginning of the race, we saw him losing a lot of positions. I think he's starting to slowly learn how to drive this car throughout a long run because now he's starting to pass guys like we talked about. Saif Fares continuing to fall back. So Rich Jetty doing a great job of being able to recover from what he had going on earlier.
We're about halfway through this race. We're going to take a quick break. Why don't you go to the fridge, get yourself a snack. We'll be right back. Don't go anywhere.
Mane & Tail's new Ultimate Gloss Shampoo and Conditioner will make your horse's coat, mane, and tail shine like never before. Developed with groundbreaking technology that you can see and feel. And best of all, these products can help keep your horse's skin, dirt, and stains. You can actually see the dirt and dander rolling off of your horse as you clean them. The system is a great way to add that extra ultra luster like no other. The results are silky, shimmering, and incredibly soft, which lends itself to your other four-legged friends too. Ultimate Gloss Shampoo and Conditioner has conditioning ingredients like avocado oil, coconut oil, and many other proteins and vitamins. The gentle pH balanced formula is safe to use every day. In fact, the more you use the Ultimate Gloss system, the better cleaning and conditioning you'll see. Especially after your horse rolls, just brush that dust right off. Even though Ultimate Gloss provides such a high shine, there's no greasy residue, making it saddle safe and allowing you to ride with confidence, knowing your saddle will never slip. This revolutionary product is incredibly easy to use, with lightning-fast results and a deep-down clean. For more information on Mane & Tail's Ultimate Gloss Shampoo and Ultimate Gloss Conditioner, go to maneandtailequine.com.
Welcome back to the Virtual Grip Network. You're watching the Pretty Good Racing League's Galloping Horses 200 presented by Mane & Tail, the spirit of great hair. Just just now joining us, we're on lap 77 of 134. Michael Krobach just took the lead over Brian Yazik before we came back here racing. Saif Fares went down pit road. Kenny, kind of curious, is this a scheduled stop for Saif? Can he make it on fuel to the rest of this race?
Well, I don't think so, because we still have over 50 laps to go, and fuel window is less than 50 laps. So I don't think so. I don't know if he had some kind of problem or just felt like maybe he could even make an extra pit stop and go that route where the tire fall off is so much that he'll make an extra pit stop and still be able to use his tires to the fullest and gain time that way. But it's just seemed oddly too early for me.
Thanks, Kenny. If you're just now joining us, you weren't here for the initial start of the race. Rich Jetty started on pole. He got up to a huge advantage, and then it was quickly run down by Cody Dempster before we had our first caution. Everybody came down pit road, got 4 fresh feel-good Goodyear tires. They all went back out onto the racetrack. Cody Dempster shot out to the lead. Then he was passed by Rich Jetty. Rich got out to a whopping 2-second lead. Then he fell back further through the field. He was passed by Cody Dempster before we got another caution. And at that point, it was pretty much a who's who after they came out of the pits. You had Yazik, Krobach, Eckridge, George, Dempster up at the field. All the drivers who've been fast all day long here at Las Vegas. And then after that long run, things have kind of settled out now where the guys that are good at hanging on to their tires and managing their speed throughout a run are up at the front of the field. And of course, no surprise, it's the guys that are pretty much in the championship hunt or a past champion in Scott Eckridge. You've got Yazik. He was your point leader almost the entire season up until the end of last weekend. Thomas George was 2 points behind entering the Roval. Leaving the Roval, he flopped that to be 2 points ahead of championship rival Brian Yazik. Just behind those two drivers is Michael Krobach. He's your championship podium last place driver for that area. Thomas George currently in 4th place on the racetrack. Scott Eckridge started in dead last. He's worked his way all the way up now, 19 positions up into 3rd position, hunting for the lead here. Eckridge won last time we were in Las Vegas, earlier in the spring when we came here en route to his championship title. Could Eckridge go back-to-back here and back-to-back in the last 2 races? Or does one of our 3 championship leaders here, Yazik, Krobach, or George, take the victory today and do the exact same thing Eckridge did, going to win the championship title?
I'd like to ask JR a question here. JR, this late in the run, he talked about kind of comers and goers and choosing or not choosing to be aggressive on the tires, but at this stage, how much do you think Yazik is fighting to keep that clean air and kind of lead this train? How much of a defense do you think he's going to try to put on to maintain that track position as we get further and further, closer and closer to green flag pit stops?
Yeah, I don't think he's going to do anything too crazy, but he's definitely going to be looking in his mirror and seeing where the guys behind him are running. Definitely, if they start to move up or down the racetrack, you're going to want to kind of get in front of them and run that line, take that air off of their nose, because you definitely want the clean air and the lead as we get deeper into this run. You would like to be the guy out in front, so when you make your pit stop, you have the cleanest racetrack to make that entry on the pit road. Not to mention, it just kind of allows you to take control of the pace in this race. So you can really slow this field down. You can see him; he's kind of watching where Krobach is going on the racetrack and moving around accordingly. It kind of gets him boxed up coming off of turn 4. Eckridge is going to get to the inside because of it.
Yeah, JR, to your point, it kind of reminds me of when Joey Logano and Kevin Harvick were battling for the race win here a couple years ago in 2020. And even this past weekend when Ross Chastain had to kind of block Joey Logano for any chance of winning this race. Unfortunately for Chastain, Logano's better tires prevailed. Will be the same case for Scott Eckridge here, trying to get around Brian Yazik. Yazik continues to go wherever he needs to block the momentum of Eckridge. Looks like it won't be a problem, though. Eckridge gets loose, uses it to advantage, and just steers underneath of the 55 car of Brian Yazik.
Yeah, very impressive move by Scott Eckridge there to be able to keep his car pulled down low on corner exit where everybody else's car is continuing to drift up a little bit naturally up off the corner. So he's able to have his car handling extremely well at the moment, and he's making good use of that for sure. But a lot of that goes into just how easy he drove this car at the beginning of the run. Like I said, on the restart, he started 5th, fell back to 7th or 8th at one point in this run, and now he's up here in the lead.
But you know what, guys? Even if Yazik loses the lead here and has to fall back, the laps he led, that's at least 1 point for him. Trying to see if he can't lead the most laps, he's going to have to lead a lot more than this right now to guarantee himself those extra points. But you know, as long as Thomas George doesn't lead a lap himself, I don't think he's led one yet. But that's going to be another point in the pocket here of Brian Yazik, especially as we start to get down into the end of the season.
And guys, we are approaching green flag pit stops less than 10 laps away, I believe. So I think Eckrich is kind of putting it all out on the table there and kind of pushing as hard as he possibly can, because the tires at this point don't really matter.
Geez, Chance Manning absolutely just duking it down the front stretch here in the grass there. He had all 4 tires up off the pavement at one point up in the air.
A little bit of off-roading there, but doing a great job to keep the car underneath him and not bringing out a caution. He's back going on the speedway, but yeah, definitely going to be losing him a lot of time as we're getting closer to this pit stop exchange. You do not want to lose any extra time on the racetrack before that.
Yeah, Chance is just going for a little bit of an adventure down there in the grass. And Kenny, to your point, I'm almost kind of curious too if Scott Eckrich isn't just eking away from the field right now, getting all the good out of those tires, just either waiting for the caution to come out or waiting for himself to come down pit road. What's the fuel window like again? When can these guys come down pit road and make it on fuel to the checkered flag?
Well, we're pretty much like right on the edge of the window right now. 46 to 48 laps is the estimated fuel window, so we're pretty much in there now. So I think, yeah, when you see Jordan Harnish, actually, he's coming into pits this time. But I think Eckrich is just kind of running as long as he needs to, and he might even let the drivers behind come in, and then he'll come in the next lap, or maybe he'll try to predict it. But yeah, I mean, I think Eckrich has just kind of been waiting and just decides to, let loose here for the last few laps of this run, and it's working.
Well, the next couple laps here, Scott's actually going to catch up to, I believe, the 25, of Brady Keir to put Keir a lap down. Keir was one of the first 2 drivers, along with Christopher DeWald at the beginning of this run, to go for a little bit of a slide down the front stretch infield there. Keir hasn't recovered so well. Fortunately for Christopher, he's recovered quite nicely. He's about 15 seconds further up the field. As you see Jacob Ruff now making a dive down to pit road.
And I heard Krobach,
he's here as well.
Krobach is coming in this time. He's the first of the leaders to come in. Dempster and George follow him in, but Yazik and Eckrich stay out. Could be a big storyline if this continues. O'Barry stays out. He'll now be in 3rd.
Yeah, we'll have to see how many laps of separation that Eckrich and Yazik continue to stay out there. Interesting to see that split between the 2 groups of cars. It looks like Scott Eckrich and Brian Yazik, they're saying they're both going to pit this time by.
Also interesting to see a split between the strategies of Yazik and George, the championship drivers. Might not be a split by many laps, as you see Yazik coming in this time, but sometimes you see championship hopefuls try to mirror each other's strategy to a T. Not this case, at least by 1 lap.
We're going to see Michael Krobach, Cody Dempster, Thomas George, and Brady Keir all come off pit road, and that was a fantastic pit stop for Michael Krobach. That was extremely fast. He went in, I think, behind Brady Keir, and he's going to come on ahead of him. He's also got a pretty large gap now between himself and Cody Dempster and Thomas George. So that was a good job by the pit crew of that 72 car.
And Vincent, talk about what it's like to do a green flag pit cycle in the PGRL. You got multiple strategies, so there's always someone trying something different. And you also have to manage your own situation, and then you have to have a good in-lap and out-lap, and now you have a completely different feeling race car.
It's just such a scary situation, and what's even scarier is when you get back onto the track. God forbid you accidentally touch that white line a second early. That's a drive-through penalty that could end your race. There's so many things that could go wrong, just like pulling up in front of traffic. The 55 tried to make a dramatic move to block the 6. Almost took them both out.
Pass for the lead here, guys. Michael Krobach goes to the front. He made a pass around the outside of Scott Eckrich. He had all that momentum. We saw what a faster pit stop he had than the 24 car of Dempster and the 6 car of Thomas George. He moves that 72 car now up to the front. JR, he's going to have to be especially careful, though. He doesn't overheat and use the good out of those tires before too long. Otherwise, he'll be at the back of this pack, very similar to what we saw happen to Rich Jetty in the earlier runs.
Yeah, absolutely right. So Krobach's one of the best at taking care of his tires. I think he'll be able to do that. These guys behind him, Thomas George, Scott Eckridge, they may actually close in on him, but he's going to do a great job of saving his tires. But we have to remember that Saif Faris is the leader right now because he pitted earlier. I don't believe he can make it the rest of the way based on what Kenny was talking about earlier during the pit stop exchange, but Saif does have the lead because of that early pit stop.
But JR, crucially, look at that interval on the top left-hand side of the screen. You see it's about 6-point-something seconds. Last time by it was 7.1 seconds. So it continues to get smaller and smaller as time goes on, especially because for right now, Krobach has fresher tires than Saif Faris, so that gap's going to continue to decrease.
Absolutely. So they got about 15, 20 lap newer tires than what Saif has. That lead is going to drop drastically. His kind of gamble, he was falling back through the field anyway. He had, I think, fallen back to around 11th, 12th place before he had to pit. So his gamble is that he's trying to gain track position, hoping that a caution comes out before he falls back to that 11th, 12th place position. Then he will essentially have had a net gain during this round of pit stops. So he's banking on having a caution come out before that point.
Fantastic insight as always. Kenny, I see Scott Eckridge. He continues to fall back through the field. When everyone kind of blended back out onto the racetrack, he was only second to the cars that pitted most recently to Michael Krobach. But since then, he's been passed by the likes of Thomas George, Brian Yazik, and Cody Dempster. Is something wrong with that 70 car, you think, or is he just managing his tires for later on in this run?
And I think he's just really managing his tires, but he is kind of going to extreme measures about it, and I'm kind of surprised it's this extreme because I feel like he's the kind of driver that could actually drive relatively fast, but also still have some tire for the end. But yeah, he is running a relatively slow pace right now and just kind of chilling out all by himself, and that just shows he must have just a lot of confidence in keeping an eye on the intervals. And knowing that I can make up X amount of time late in this run, but you have to be careful on this kind of strategy that you make sure you have enough time to gain all that track position back, because like you said, he's dropped quite a bit of distance from the leader.
Yeah, even if it's not from the leader, even it's going to be from the guy who should be in the lead in the next couple of laps here, Michael Krobach. Currently looking at the intervals here, he's about 4 and some change seconds behind Michael Krobach, so that's going to be a lot of ground for Scott to make up. I mean, he's just now entering turns 3 and 4, so he's got a lot of distance to make up if he wants any shot of passing his Loud Pedal Motorsports teammate of Michael Krobach there in the MC Squared Editing Services number 72 car. Krobach continues to hunt down race leader Saif Faris in the 44 car. Although, Kenny, to Scott's credit, last run we saw him kind of being the cork in the bottle for the second pack of cars, and he drove all the way up to the second pack, to the first pack, and then made a pass for the lead there later in the run. So I'm not going to say Scott doesn't know what he's doing. It just seems kind of weird that he's going through that aggressive of a measure. As you now see Michael Krobach come here to the inside of Saif Faris as they go into turns 1 and 2. He's going to make it look easy, and that's because for him it is. I mean, JR, he's got 15 or 20 lap newer tires than Saif.
Yeah, and Saif, he can run until about lap 120, so if he wants to try to catch a caution, he can still throw out that play, and he probably needs to, unless he pits extra early and just tries to see if he can regain the track position on the track that way, but then he'll be going a lap down pretty quickly.
This is a battle for the last spot in the top 10. Jonathan Cogswell in the Davey Allison throwback 28 car. You've got Greg O'Berry in the 97 car just behind both those drivers is Chance Manning. Chance has gone for a couple of spins in the earlier parts of this race, but he continues to recover quite nicely as the race goes on. You see Jonathan Cogswell pulling away now from those 2 drivers behind him. Saif Faris is getting a little bit loose there coming off of turn 4. Looks like he's just getting low here to let Yazik and Dempster go by.
Yeah, you're absolutely correct. He's just trying to stay out of these guys' way. He is not racing them. He understands that he's on a different pit strategy, tire strategy. So he's just trying to do, like we said, get that net gain, hopefully have a caution come out. But right now, our guys, this race is looking like a green flag type race to the end.
And the field's really spread out here, so it's just everybody's kind of just running their own race, and And Vincent, talk about, if you're in the situation like this, you're kind of in your own race with maybe just a couple other drivers around you, and in a track that's this abrasive, how much of a chess game is it where you're, trying to either be the leader or the caboose, or, is there a lot of gamesmanship going on with a kind of green-looking race?
The strategy here is to go as fast and as soft as possible simultaneously. So you're going to be soft on those tires and as fast as you can be. It is not an easy thing to do, and I think that's why when you go to tracks like this and you have races like this, the best guys, the best drivers, the most talented ones, the most consistent ones are the ones who do good. And that's why guys like Krobach, who I think is probably one of the most consistent drivers in this league, always finishing in the top 3 to top 5 without fail. I think that's why he's in the lead right now, is because he's the most consistent. That said, that 70 car scares me terribly. He is sitting like 5 seconds back of everyone else, and he's running equal times to them now. I just think that you're going to see that cliff where everyone's going to fall off the tire cliff, and that 70 car is going to be running about 4/10 faster.
It's like Ferry's actually went off the track. He went through the grass, and he's actually spinning in turn 1. No, saves it, but he's got a lot of junk on his hot tires there. You see a look, pretty much a repeat of what we've seen a few cars do today, but still no caution caused by this.
Yeah, looking like a monster truck there in the infield of Las Vegas Motor Speedway. Goes for a little bit of a slide, but that was a pretty good save there by the driver of the number 44. Your leader out front, it's still Michael Krobach by about 0.3 of a second over Thomas George. George has about 0.8 of a second back to Brian Yazik, who is currently in this battle for 3rd and 4th position with Cody Dempster. And just behind these guys, like Vincent mentioned, it's the 70 car of Scott Eckridge, this year's first season champion. Got the 70 car. He has been slowly but surely kind of reeling our leader of Michael Krobach in over the last couple laps, so we'll have to keep an eye on that delta.
Absolutely.
0.3 of a second that last lap, JR.
Yeah, absolutely. He's starting to close in. His speed, he's just been running to a certain lap time to not abuse the tires. Now his lap time is starting to be faster than what everybody else's is because of the tire savings he's done. While we're talking about that, up front, it looks like Thomas George is starting to press a little bit harder to try to get that lead from Michael Krobach. We've seen last couple of laps he's been trying to move around and get that lead, but so far Krobach's been able to maintain pace and keep him behind him. He's moving around on the track trying to block that error back to Thomas George.
Yeah, and if Thomas George is able to get by him, he'll be able to lead at least a lap for now, and that'll be a crucial point here in the overall championship battle between he and Brian Yazik, who is just behind. These guys continue to finish pretty much lock and step to one another. Of course, Thomas George winning that, he was just on fire the last 2 races before the Charlotte Roval, winning 2 back-to-back, and the guy that was just in his mirror when he crossed the start-finish line was Brian Yazik, so Brian did a great job to kind of minimize the point loss to Thomas in his, the previous 3 races. Right now he's got to be trying to see what he can do to try and gain some points back on that 6 car. Continues to get closer and closer to both the 6 and the 72 car. Currently your leader, that's Michael Krobach.
Yeah, absolutely. So our top 3 guys are the top 3 in points. This race is really kind of showing us what this whole season has been like. It's been these 3 guys fighting for the top position in points. Krobach trying to make up ground on both George and Yazik, but unfortunately they're right behind him in his rearview mirror.
Oh yeah, if Krobach really wants to make a kind of a challenge or mount any sort of a challenge to these 2 title contenders ahead of him, 1st and 2nd in points, he's going to need to have a lot of good days and for them to have a good couple of bad days. We'll see obviously how things shake out as those drop weeks continue to sort of roll in as the championship season comes on. We'll know where everybody sits here at the end of race 11 out of 12 in terms of people using their drop weeks and who's got all the points to play with as the race goes on. We should get a pretty clear idea, though, after this race and especially the next one at Homestead Miami Speedway. You're looking right now, this is the battle for the 6th position. Jordan Harnish in the 22 car looks to the inside of Adam Jersky in the 71. Harnish looking to take over that position as they head out of turn 2 and down the back straightaway.
And again, good recovery from Harnish, having the early problems that he experienced, and has slowly made his way up through the field, up in 6th place.
Scott Eckridge now trying to make a move to the outside of Cody Dempster. Cody's going to block him off just a little bit, but I think Scott's tires are good enough. Yeah, he's just going to turn down the racetrack.
Oh, we have contact in turn 2.
Yazik Yazik slides.
Him and George have wrecked, and I don't think this will be a caution, at least not at the moment.
No, yeah, because Yazik stopped on the apron. I think Thomas George has got pretty significant damage as well. If not damage, he took a pretty hard hit there in terms of slowing down to Scott Eckridge and Cody Dempster being passed by both of them. This is the incident in question. Kenny, you saw it first. Talk me through it.
Yeah, it looks like George really just had a moment off of turn 2, tried to gather it up. Yazik just chose to go to his outside. Don't blame him because George was pretty much on the apron, and George comes back up and slams into Yazik, who just plows into the fence. And George might be able to continue, albeit with a wounded race car, but Yazik is toast. He is done.
Yeah, Yazik is done. This is riding on board with Brian Yazik. Yeah, Thomas George just goes for a slide. And I think Yazik would have made the corner to his outside, but as soon as that contact was made between the 6 and the 55, Brian Yazik was quite the passenger at that point. Yeah, he's got heavy right front suspension damage, JR.
Absolutely. The angle he hit that wall, it was absolutely going to damage that right front suspension, break some of the upper control arm, something, because that wheel is moving around at a furious pace back and forth, and obviously you can see the fender damage that was incurred by that as well. So not only, even with the suspension, if it were to have held up, his race was going to be over with. The body of that car is severely damaged on the right front. He would have lost a ton of downforce, a ton of speed through the corners.
Yeah, that's going to take a huge hit there to Brian Yazik's championship hopes. Luckily for him, there's 2 drop races in this 12-week season, so he's not completely out of it yet. He can always, of course, hope that Thomas George has something happen to him in the next couple races, or that Thomas needs to miss a race. But boy, I tell you who loved that for right now, Michael Krobach. He's now got a 2.3 second lead over Scott Eckridge, and it's kind of started to stabilize here in the last couple laps.
Yeah, if anybody could hold pace with what Scott Eckridge is trying to do with tire savings, it's going to be Michael Krobach. He had the track position as well while he was doing it. I'm sure he had to use up a little bit more than what he wanted to in order to keep that. But he's definitely going to have some pace here. It'll be interesting to see as we get further into this run. We're on lap 116 and 134. Not that much further does Krobach have to hold on, but Scott is so good at being able to have a ton of speed at the very end of a run. So it's going to be close here, guys, but if anybody can do it, I think Krobach can.
Well, so far this season, guys, Yazik's worst finish this season is 14th at Bristol, and that's he's in 15th right now. So this is going to be definitely a drop week for him. The key thing is here, I'm sure that the track looming over everybody coming into this last few races is Martinsville, not Las Vegas. So Yazik will have to go into Martinsville trying to hope to get a really solid finish. And last time we went to a short track, he didn't finish so well. So that's definitely got to be looming over him.
Yeah, and who's always done really good off the short tracks in that area, of course, where Thomas George is from, practically his backyard. He's been doing really good at places like Martinsville and Richmond. Yeah, of course, Yazik's done good at those places too, winning at Richmond in the last season, one of the races to close out that Season 2 championship. Drago Berry down to the inside of Chance Manning. That's for 8th position overall. These two guys have been pretty much locked in a battle for the last, I'm going to say, 20 laps. These guys and Jonathan Cogswell. Jonathan has fallen about 4 seconds back from Chance. His tires have kind of taken a turn for the worse, but boy, these two have been locked together for the majority of this race. They're coming up to the 25 car there, Brady Cure. He's a couple laps down compared to these guys. I think 1 lap down at the moment. Yeah, 1 lap down.
Actually moves Jordan Harnish into the top 5 as well. That would be his first of the season if he's able to finish it off here. He's got about 5.5 seconds before he can catch up to Thomas George in 4th, but he's about a second ahead of Jersky behind him in 6th. So good solid run again for Harnish here.
Yeah, really solid run for Jordan, especially after, like you said, pancaked the wall in turn 1. And pretty much as soon as the green flag dropped, he must have had some sort of weird computer lag or mechanical hardware malfunction or something, because he had hit that wall a ton. And just behind, Jordan Harnish, the 22 car, is Michael Krobach, it looks like. Well, 1 car. That was a pretty fast dart down to the inside. That is a loose condition there, JR.
Absolutely, and I was just about to say, the one thing that Krobach does not want to have is something happen in front of him or to catch one of these lap cars in the wrong place, because we talk about that clean air. He's had it for the entire run. As he catches these guys, he's going to get into some of that dirty air. It's going to change the handling of his car, and it can potentially back him up into Scott Eckridge. So he does not want to catch these guys in the wrong place.
Michael Krobach comes off of turn 4 there. The next car he's going to set his sights on is Jacob Ruff in the number 7 machine. Michael Krobach's got about 13 laps to go before the end of this race, just trying to make it be a pretty even, just nice, easy run to the end of this thing. Scott Eckridge is about 1.7 seconds behind. Scott's going to have to gain more than a tenth of a second every lap if he has any chance of catching up to Michael Krobach. And Kenny, as we always say, it's one thing to catch a guy, it's a completely different thing to pass him.
It is. I mean, granted, he is running about a tenth and a half faster than Krobach the last few laps. So I think, if he did catch him, I'm not sure Krobach would have a whole lot of fight in him. But then that last time he only lost Eckridge by a tenth, which I don't think that will be enough at this juncture of the race for him to actually make up the gap. He's 1.6 seconds back, and we only have about 12 laps left. So if he's gaining only a tenth per lap, it's not going to be enough. Other storylines going on. Adam Jersky went through the front stretch grass, and he's able to save it. But Rich Jetty now challenging him for 6th place. Take a look at the replay here. And again, another repeat of just cars getting really loose off of turn 4, JR. That's been a common symptom with these race cars.
Yeah, absolutely. The banking kind of falls off of turn 4, and it's very hard to judge where that wall is. Seems simple, but it's very hard to judge where that wall is on the exit of turn 4. Guys will start to put a lot of wheel into it to stay off of that wall, and then all of a sudden the rear end will swap ends on you because you're going from a push-loose condition. The front tires finally grab, rear end comes around, and these guys are doing a nice job to not overcorrect. We've seen that a lot through this season. But so far, most of the guys have been able to just keep it straight, go through the grass without overcorrecting, and they're living to fight another day here.
Boy, for right now, I can tell you who the best friend of Brian Yazik is. It's that 24 car, Cody Debster. Pretty much everybody ahead of Thomas George at the moment, trying to make sure that Thomas doesn't get the maximum amount of points and try to eke out a larger lead there over Brian Yazik. Of course, the last thing Yazik wants right now is for George to have a really good night here.
Definitely, especially after the contact, to see your competitor go on and have a good race and gain a lot of points is very disheartening for sure. But yeah, definitely Thomas George after that has been chasing down Cody Dempster quite a bit. But since he's gotten there, he's kind of fallen off a little bit. He's going to have to find some way to get around Cody, running a different line than what he's doing. So far, he's just been running right behind him.
And JR, I've been there when you're behind one of your championship rivals. They make a mistake. You try to take evasive action, and it's their fault that you ended up hitting the wall and practically DNF or have a really, really bad points day, and they can just continue on to have, if not a good, just a decent day. It is the most aggravating feeling in the world. You see red for pretty much the next week until you can get back out on the racetrack and try to go back to defending your championship title.
Yeah, exactly. It's very disheartening when that happens, and it gives you motivation going into the next race or two for sure, and you're definitely going to be driving harder than what you normally do, and probably be a little bit more aggressive, especially when you're around that individual, because you know what happened the last time. So, yeah, definitely Yazik's going to come back hard when we go to Martinsville, and he's going to, or at Homestead, I guess, and Martinsville, and he's going to be pushing hard to try to get that track position and to maintain it and finish in high up in the points.
On your screen, you see Greg O'Berry looking to the inside of Rich Jetty. That is for the 7th position. Greg has been on a charge these last 20 or 30 laps or so to go up through the field. Rich is definitely not making it easy on him. They're going to cross the stripe this time by. They're going to have one more lap closer to 5 to go. And Kenny, I always like these round numbers. You talk about, math and stuff. Whoa, Rich Jetty goes for a big slide there coming off of turn 4. That was a phenomenal save by the 36 car. But Kenny, I always love the round numbers because it makes the math easier. When you get inside that 5 lap to go, Scott has more than a second up the road to Michael Krobach. He's going to have to gain 0.2 of a second every lap just to catch Michael.
Yeah, and he's just not doing it, and I can tell that he has officially given himself the green light because his car is starting to yaw out in the corners, get a little bit loose. and that's the telltale sign that he's really going for it. And really, Krobach has done a great job of just keeping his car pretty much the same this entire run, and he's kind of doing what I thought honestly Eckridge could do, and that's run a faster pace than what he was, and but still be consistent throughout the entire run. Sure, Krobach's fallen off a little bit, but he's been able to save enough. You know, granted, we still have a few laps to go, but Eckridge, I think he just gave up a little bit too much track position there early on. And you know, Vincent, have you ever been in that situation where you laid back too far and then couldn't make up enough distance at the end? You got to be kicking yourself.
I think that's exactly what that 70 car is kicking, and what's so scary for the 72 is that Eckridge almost got to that bubble. He almost got to that point where you can kind of start drafting the guy. Once you're within about 8/10 off a guy, you can suck up at that draft, and you don't need to have the fastest car at that point. Just the nature of how the draft works with these guys, it can help you tremendously, but he just could not get within that bubble. He's so close. I don't know if he's going to have the time left to do it.
This next time by the stripe, they're going to get the old bunny ears of the peace sign from bar to the flag, signaling them that they have 2 more laps to go. Scott Eckridge still is about a second behind Michael Krobach. You see him, JR, he's going all over the track. Whoa, big slide there coming off of turn 4. He's looking for grip everywhere he can, but he's having a really rough time finding it.
Definitely, he's laying it all out there right now. It's the very end of the race, last few laps here. He's trying to get everything he can, hoping that he can find a line that gains him a lot of momentum and gets him into that drafting zone so he can suck up fast in a lap. But it's just not happening for him so far. Everything is just not doing what he needs it to do with that car.
Well, I can tell you though, just based on the colors on the left-hand side of the screen, to see those white numbers turn to yellow for just a brief little bit of a second, that means the gap is now within a second as they go to yellow. White flag, though, in the air. This is the last time by the stripe before they get the checkered flag, signaling the end of the race. Michael Krobach just has to go down in turns 1 and 2, and then down through turns 3 and 4. He's going to come off the other side a winner this season. And whoa, look at Scott Eckridge all over the back straightaway. He's sliding hard contact in the wall. This is not what Brian Yazik wanted to see. Scott Eckridge tries to hold on to the car. Jacob Ruff takes evasive action. Off of turn 4, though, all eyes go to Michael Krobach as he's going to cross the start-finish line on lap 154 to take the checkered flag in the Galloping Horses 200 presented by Mane and Tail.
To win this race, it's the 72 car. The whole last 5 laps, I was gritting every tooth, squeezing every finger, crossing every toe. I'm so happy for Krobach. He did a phenomenal job here. Perfectly ran the entire final stage and a perfect pit stop in and out. What a good job.
We're going to let iRacing timing and scoring sort everything out. Why don't you go to the fridge, get yourself a drink before the end of the night. When we come back, we're going to go through the entire finishing order and interview our podium drivers. We'll be right back.
J.R. Shepard dives down to the inside, trying to see if he's able to get a little bit of that tack that Brandon Proudfoot has been getting up at the front of the field 10 laps ago here at Port Royal.
Yeah, definitely not making a huge ground here on Brian. Brian's able to maintain that gap.
It's Justin Morton back into second with J.R. Shepard somehow taking over the lead. I have no idea.
These guys, you see Scott kind of using up all that momentum. Got to enter the corner wide. I expected him to kind of cut back low. See lap car down on the inside. George overshoots the corner. Scott puts that car just where he needs to on the middle. It's going to be a drag race through the kink. Thomas George gets loose. Scott Eckridge has the opportunity to come home with a win right now. Side-by-side drag race.
Oh, wow.
Scott Eckridge, 5 1,000ths of a second. Welcome back to Las Vegas Motor Speedway. You're watching the Virtual Grip Network as we show you the Pretty Good Racing League and their Galloping Horses 200 presented by Mane and Tail. Good for horses, good for people, great for centaurs. Michael Krobach in the 72 car has fought all season long, coming oh so close at Texas in a just wild finish. There are better words to describe that. Michael Krobach comes home to win today here at Las Vegas Motor Speedway. Cody Dempster finishes second. Thomas George rounds out the podium after a wild finish there from Scott Eckrich, who got in the wall on the backstretch, fell 2 spots to finish just outside the podium. He loses the opportunity to talk to JR, myself, and Kenny. Jordan Harnish finishes in 4th with Adam Jerski in 6th, Grego Berry in 7th, followed by Rich Chetty and Jonathan Cogswell. Christopher Duwald had a pretty quiet, consistent race. He'll finish in 10th. Jacob Bruff will come home in 11th, followed by Chance Manning in 12th. He had a wild race up and down the field all night. John Wilco will come home in 13th, followed by Brady Cure in 14th. Brian Yazik was in contention for the win, at least a top 5 or a podium finish all day. He'll have to settle for 15th after trying to avoid an accident with his championship competitor, Thomas George. Unfortunately for him, he got the raw end of that deal. He finishes the race 18 laps down, takes a huge hit in the points. Thankfully, though, Kenny, you mentioned he should be able to drop this race if all things go well for him for the rest of the season. Saif Ferris had a pretty up and down day. He ends the race on a down note after gambling on a pit strategy. He'll come home in 16th with Wally Wilson in 17th. Wally had a lot of speed to start out the day after a huge wreck earlier on in the going. James Moore finishes in 19th with Tim Weinkauf rounding out the top 20. Another fast driver with bad luck, and including the fast drivers with bad luck list, Woody Mahan in 21st. Isaiah Dupre is the first person out of this race to not run a lap, finishes 134 laps down. But regardless, though, Kenny, I think you've caught up with your best buddy, Michael Krobach, big winner here tonight.
I have. Michael, would you strike a deal with the whole field to let you win tonight? What's up with that, man?
Oh, just about 600 miles or so of practice in open races. I gotta thank Elite Performance Industries for a great setup in open, and that really taught me how to drive this track and this car. Just lap after lap after lap of hugging that white line, using some lessons learned from my father, Scott Eckrich, about how to get on and off pit road and carry a bit of speed coming into the pits, and just playing a game of chicken there that last run. I mean, I knew Safe was on a different strategy in the 44, and I think he had to pit twice, and then he disconnected. So it was just a matter of running that second to last stint close enough on fuel so you could make it to the end, and then getting a little bit of undercut on Scott, and then getting the clean air out front, and then kind of managing that gap to Thomas. I mean, he was within about a second the whole time, and I kind of just let him catch me there at the end, and then as soon as he got to me, I'm like, all right, time to go, and just dropped the hammer and checked out a little bit. And Scott was faster than me at the end there, I think, and he probably would have gotten close. Just with the air, how the air is in this car, I don't know if he would have gotten by me, but he's pretty damn good, so he probably would have. But just happy to hold the track position and keep the 72 out front, and talk to you again, but in victory lane.
Yeah, it's kind of a change in scenery for both of us here. But, it's interesting that you say that you ran an open setup to kind of get used to the track and everything. How similar did that setup feel to this? Because sometimes they feel similar. Other times the open setup feels totally different and forces you to drive the track completely different than you would in a fixed setup.
Yeah, the iRacing fixed setup is a lot tighter, definitely all around. But what the running the open taught me was just how to manage the arc going into 3. I think that was a big difference. I was trying to keep the arc really shallow, and that's what the setup notes had taught me there, that you want to keep a really shallow entry into 3 to prevent the right rear tire from heating up too much, because once it heats up, you might feel good on entry, but then you're going to be sliding off on exit and turn 4, and that's what I was noticing a lot of cars were doing. So I think that bit transferred over from running the open, just knowing where to position the car on track and then how to manage those different handling problems that would unfold over the course of a run. Just doing a lot of long runs, a lot of practice pit in, pit out. I think I've, over the years, given up a lot of time on pit entry and exit, and so just trying to minimize those sort of mistakes and not leaving anything on the table, and we didn't do that tonight.
Blair, there's 2 things in there that we actually did kind of notice in the broadcast here. First, your pit cycle there seemed to be phenomenal. You got ahead of everybody that was on your common strategy and got ahead of that kind of group, that clique that was racing together for so long. And then on top of that, it seemed like you and Eckrich were kind of running the same strategy, but you seemed to just get closer to that limit where you'd still save the tires, but you're running a faster time overall. And Eckrich just kind of hung back a little too far. And once he had to push for you, he just started sliding the tires too much. But real quick at the end, how was there was some traffic up ahead? Did that become any bit of a factor? And how much like mirror driving were you doing, or were you just kind of looking forward and paying attention to how you were driving the track?
Yeah, I turned the relative box completely off. I didn't look in the mirror once. I knew from my go-karting days, anytime that I performed poorly, it was me looking behind to see where the competitors are and just getting in my own head. So we were just hammer down, looking forward, out the windshield. I had the Sim Racing Apps, one of my sponsors. I had their windows up there, so I had a track map, and I had a lap time box, and I was just looking at the lap times to see where I was running compared to Scott, stepping up my pace a little bit if I needed to, and backing it back down if we were in close proximity. So it was just all about managing the gap there the last 30 laps. The lap cars, John Wilco, super respectful. Brady Keir, also respectful. They both got out of the way, but they both told me where they were going. No issues there when passing lap traffic. These guys in the Pretty Good Racing League are pretty good, and they're pretty respectful with the leaders, so no issues there.
So you came in here the only driver in the top 5 in points without a win. You've now checked that box. Who would you like to thank for the victory tonight?
Well, I got to thank you for interviewing me and putting up with our banter, and it makes it a lot of fun parking it in Victory Lane finally to get to talk to you again. VGN for putting on the broadcast, all the admins for getting this league together, and let's see if I can get all the sponsors in here without forgetting any. So MC Squared Editing Services, Elite Performance Industries, Pretty Good Racing League, Graphics Esports, Ford, Sim Racing Apps, HPP, Clipping That Apex, Carolina Sim Shop, The Joy of Driving, Thumbs Up Cancer Down, and the Mayhan Speed Laboratories. I think I got them all. If I forgot anybody, I'm sorry. And I got a shout out to my partner Alana, who is tuning in to these broadcasts every week for the last little while. And definitely my performance has improved, having some fans out there watching, and happy to bring it home and park it in Victory Lane.
Great run for you, Michael, and we'll see how well you can do as we push towards this championship fight.
Thanks, Kenny.
That was Michael Krobach, our big winner tonight. Great to talk to him. Great to see him in Victory Lane. And I believe J.R. Shepard has caught up with Cody Dempster.
Indeed I have. Hey, Cody, you got a copy there?
Yes, sir, I do.
Awesome. Hey, man, congratulations on that second place run tonight. We saw you early on try to go and chase and get that lead and then fall off just a little bit toward the end of that run. Was the tire wear here a little bit higher than what was expected?
Yeah, I mean, I knew going into here I had ran some other stuff. I hadn't touched the cup car until about 5 minutes before the green flag dropped. Ran 6 laps of practice to kind of know where I was going around here. I've been getting the real life race car. We're going to Nashville in a week, so I've been getting that ready, and that's been taking up the bulk of my time. But I wanted to come here and run with these guys tonight. And I knew I was going to have to save tires. I kind of had an idea. I didn't know what I needed to do. I didn't have the notebook like Krobach had, or probably a lot of these guys had. And so I was kind of learning on the fly. That first run we had good. I kind of backed off and let the field come to me, but I pushed it too hard, too quick. And you gotta drive with an eggshell under that throttle pedal, especially trying to get off a 4. Try not to piss off that right rear and just keep it under you. But as runs got longer, we had a couple cautions early on, and then as the runs got longer, I kind of got more in a rhythm, got more in tune with the car. I had good, short run speed. My biggest thing is the middle of the run I fell off, and then as the run got longer, I felt like I got better and better and better, and I was actually clicking off faster laps than previous laps.
Absolutely. And hey, Cody, I saw that you were going to be running the All-American 400 up in Nashville. I had the privilege to be able to race in front of the fans there once before, so just want to get your opinion on things as somebody that drives a real race car. How does the iRacing service, and you may not be able to compare it directly talking about these next-gen cars, but how does the iRacing service compare in feel to the real race car? How do things react that may be the same or different?
Well, being completely honest with you, my first time to Nashville, this will be my second trip this year. My first time was in 2020, and that is right before the 2020 All-American 400 is when Nashville dropped for iRacing, and I actually turned quite a few laps on there. I mean, I probably turned 200 laps around there, just, going into it to know where points on the track were, where bumps were, where you're trying to kind of aim for. I mean, it's not going to directly translate. You don't get that feel for the car necessarily like you would with your butt actually in the seat. but you can learn points and you can get a grasp of what everything's going to do. You know, when it comes to the super lates, you know, it's a little backwards. Generally, you're trying to set up your cars tight for the beginning of the race so that it's loose at the end of the run when you don't have a right rear tire left, because, you know, 600 horsepower, 10-inch tire doesn't really make the best of things work. But the service is a little backwards, but, you know, it gives you a good idea, you know, going to other tracks. You know, I'm sure a lot of guys that run in the truck series or ARCA guys, you know, trying to get a grasp of the track for the first time, they're probably in a sim somewhere. Very well could be iRacing, trying to just not necessarily learn everything that they're going to learn right then and there, but have a good idea going into it so that they're more prepared than they were before.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree with you, Cody. iRacing's been a pretty phenomenal service. If nothing else, just getting you accustomed to what the track itself is going to look like and see where things are and kind of see where your marks need to be. But I want to ask you, looking ahead to the PGRL season, what's your thoughts on going to Homestead next weekend? How do you think you're going to be able to do there?
So I hate to break it to you, but I'm not going to be here for Homestead, and I'm really upset because it is my favorite track on the service. But yeah. I'm going to be on the road coming from old Colorado to Nashville. So I'm going to be on the road already by then and going to miss next week and probably the week after that. So I'm going to be on a little 2-week hiatus, most likely, not running here.
Oh, very understandable, man. The real world stuff definitely takes over at the end of the day. But hey, wish you luck in your real world racing, and hopefully everything goes well for you there. Before we let you go here, who do you want to thank for tonight's run?
I got to thank Patriot Media Marketing Services as well as DriverTees.com. You can go and pick yourself up some Cody Dempster Racing merchandise. We have a limited time Nashville shirt on there as well as the 2022 championship shirt on there. And then, you know, you guys for broadcasting this, the PGRL admins, you know, Crowbach, all of them for, you know, putting up with this week in, week out, making sure everything is good and kosher going into the races, because when we get here, everything's running smooth. And then, you know, the girlfriend, she was sitting next to me for most of the race, you know, kind of cheering me on, watching. She had the broadcast up on her computer, you know, just trying to keep in and keep on keeping on.
Absolutely, man. Well, hey, Cody, congratulations on that second place run here tonight.
I appreciate it, sir.
And that was Cody Dempster, our second place finisher tonight. And with that, I believe Austin's now caught up with third place, Thomas George.
I have. Hey, Thomas, you're probably surprised to hear my voice. Kenny thinks you smell, so he wanted to interview big winner Michael. Just kidding. It was Kenny and Michael are best buds, so that's why you're getting me. I'm happy, though. You've got to be happy with your third place finish. You got a free spot there at the end because Scott ended up hitting the wall.
You'd think I'd be happy, but I'm not.
Well, we saw you had a little bit of a moment there. Championship rival Brian Yazik ended up hitting the outside wall pretty hard. That probably weighs heavily on your mind, but it's got to make your job at the end of the day, going to these last couple races for the championship, just a little bit easier.
I mean, it makes it easier, I guess, but I pride myself on not doing stupid crap like that, and I don't know. I ran that same line for 110 damn laps, I guess. I don't know. And for whatever reason, the car decided, oh, you're losing control right here. And it got loose, went on the apron, tried to save it. Saved it for the most part. And then Brian just was to my outside. And then the rest of the race, the car ran more or less the same line, no issues. So I don't know if the tires just said F you to my driving style for that split second, or I don't know. But I don't like to race like that. I don't like to take out a championship contender like that. That's not my style. You know, I knew he was going to be faster than me at the end of that, and I was going to race him as hard as I could, but I wasn't going to do that to him. And
right, race him hard, race him clean. But, you know, Thomas, at least it does open up the points for you heading into the last couple races here. And as we head into that, all eyes focus forward to the championship. But as you continue this championship run, you pad that point total with a good, solid podium finish today. Who do you have to thank before we let you go?
Well, you guys for broadcasting the show, the admins for everything they do, and everybody that watches me stream this stuff. Obviously tonight was a little bit more. Yeah, I don't know, man. Just I don't know. That's not how I want to. If I win the championship, I mean, I'm gonna think about that, and I'm sure I'll get over it. I'm sure Brian will get over it. I don't expect any breaks for the last 3 races. Not that I did anyway, but that's not how I want to decide things if it's possible. But it wasn't like I dumped him or anything. It's just I know it's hard racing. I know it's an accident, and I'm sure he's gonna be pissed off with me for at least a week or a couple days, and just I don't know. We'll talk about it, I'm sure, but just gotta finish out the season, see if we can pull off the championship, and then we'll see from there.
Definitely. Thomas, congratulations on your podium. Thank you so much for taking the time to talk to us.
Appreciate it.
That was Thomas George. He'll come home tonight, 3rd on the field, rounds out the podium. We'd like to thank all of our championship competitors for taking the time to talk to us. Guys, that was an eventful race. You saw a lot of guys, a lot of comers and goers with the new tire model today. JR, your thoughts?
Yeah, Austin, I think it's just a prequel to what's to come next week at Homestead. I believe we're going to see the same type of situation with how guys are going to have to drive these cars throughout a run. I expect to have some good green flag runs at that track as well. So you're going to have to save your tires, take care of them, run the line that the car is most comfortable with, that you can keep the car underneath you and save what you have for the end of the run. We saw that tonight Krobach and Scott Eckridge did that the best. Will the other guys be able to catch them next week?
Yeah, that's kind of took the words right out of my mouth, JR, that this was kind of a prequel for Homestead, and that the strategy that Krobach ran here could very well be applied to next race at Homestead, where you kind of pick a pace, run it, and see if it can propel you to victory. And Eckridge might have to kind of go to the drawing board a little bit, maybe up the aggression just a little bit to be able to keep that track position if we're going to have a long green flag run. Especially, if we have a relatively short field with a decent bit of attrition and low caution rate, could expect to see the field spread out and have a 1 to 2 to 3 car battle there near the end of that one as well. Vincent, any last thoughts from you sitting up in the booth being able to watch this event?
Obviously, it's really cool that Mane and Tail got to sponsor such an awesome race. This has been probably one of the better races so far in this 3rd and final stint of the season, like the overall 36-week season. And just what a phenomenal job. I mean, there was not a whole lot of cautions, but there was not a single moment where this race didn't have a whole lot of action going on, circling through the field and just watching the fastest driver fail to out-consist the most consistent driver in a race that needed you to be the most consistent. I think it just shows that in this league, it doesn't matter who the fastest is. It depends on what kind of race you end up falling into and whether or not you can execute it. So congratulations to Krobach on doing a phenomenal job at doing that, and congratulations to all of our top 5 finishers for really putting together a strong performance. Thomas George obviously having his big issue that took out Yazek. He was able to save that car and keep that car rolling without having too much damage and getting a top 3 finish out of it. Cody Dempster, who we had mentioned, really struggled at the beginning of this race, just pushing way too hard in the first 13 laps. He really found a rhythm at the end of this race and really put together some strong laps. I think you can really tell just on how he drove. His lap times worked. He got better and better each run. And then obviously Krobach just for putting together a perfect performance in those last, I think, 100 laps between the last caution and the end of the race. Obviously, all 3 of those guys should be proud of themselves, and I cannot wait for Homestead. That is my favorite 1.5 mile track. If I'm not racing it, I'll be sure as hell they are watching it.
The next Pretty Good Racing League broadcast is Tuesday, October 25th from Homestead Miami Speedway. That goes live at 8:50 p.m. Eastern Time. And the next Virtual Grip broadcast is the BRL's Dirt Street Stock Series as they take on Eldora Speedway. That stream goes live on Friday, October 21st at 7:10 p.m. Eastern Time. This has been a pretty good production of the Virtual Grip Network. On behalf of myself, Austin Belke, my booth mates J.R. Shepard and Kenny Kibbe, our director Ryan Seneker, and special guest in the booth, Vincent Crow, and everyone else behind the scenes at the Virtual Grip Network, we'd like to thank you so much for watching, and good night.